Hello and welcome to Highlights, a show where I recap something like it's sports, even though it's not. This season we are covering All-Star 6, and this week we are going to look at the top Twitter reactions from episode 7, Drag Race related news from the past week, and looking at all of the contestant stats going into episode 8. But first, let's reacquaint ourselves with what happened last time. It's time for Previously on All-Star 6. Last week's episode was Show Up Queen, which was a girl group challenge, meaning last week the queens were tasked with splitting into 2 teams but performing as a group after writing lyrics and recording verses for the new song Show Up Queen. Jan, Pandora, Raja, and Trinity were on one team, Eureka, Kylie, and Ginger on the other. Both teams did well, with some notable standouts like Trinity, Eureka, and Kylie. Trinity ended up being named Top All-Star of the Week, in fact, with Jan and Pandora falling into the bottom.
Alexis, Mateo, Rodriguez, Rivera, Elizabeth, y todos los demás. Sickening, no? Bam!
Was the lip sync assassin and battled Trinity to Dance Again by Jennifer Lopez. Alexis Mateo won the lip sync and revealed that once again, the group voted in a 50-50 tie. The last one also being a vote involving Jan, interesting enough, but Ginger won her lip sync, so it didn't end up mattering in that episode. But this time it actually needed to be addressed, as it left Jan and Pandora's fates uncertain. RuPaul then states that apparently All Stars has a slew of imaginary rules we never went over, and that All Stars will handle a tie among a group vote by still allowing the top All Star to break the tie by voting with the group by revealing her lipstick. So even though Trinity lost the lip sync for her legacy, she still had to reveal her vote to break the tie and send somebody home, which turned out unfortunately to be Jan. Very crazy ending, and it will absolutely ripple into this week, I'm sure, but let's see how everyone else reacted. It's time for top tweets. Yeah, what do you guys think about RuPaul ruining the mental stability of Jan? I shouldn't love it, but I kind of do. Anyway, let's move on though, because this week, in addition to some news, we also actually got some pretty hot tea, so let's get into it. Nina West, who has suddenly become the spokesperson for the LGBT community everywhere, including Nickelodeon and Disney+, will now headline the Hairspray National Tour. Nina's career has been exploding lately and has been making her a household name, proving you don't actually need to win Drag Race to be a drag superstar. Netflix revealed new stills from the upcoming 6th and final season of Lucifer and revealed that Katya and Bob the Drag Queen will have a guest spot in the season. Based on the stills, it looks like they'll be in the same episode, of course. It's probably not a big role, but they want the gays to watch, so they want to make sure we know. Okay, so this is one of actually 2 hot tea juicy related stories, but speaking with Entertainment Weekly, Jan admitted that watching the season as it aired, it was obviously her time to be eliminated in the competition. Jan also discussed what it has been like being received by fans negatively this season as opposed to her mostly positive reception on season 12. Fans online have been making it known that Jan probably should have been eliminated earlier, especially when she didn't get eliminated, but Controversially, Scarlet Envy did get eliminated by Ginger Minj, and how seemingly shady that to fans that looked, because obviously Jan and Ginger had become very close. Jan also discussed her and Ginger having the same look for the Hot Tropics runway, and stated that it totally made sense to her because they had already become so close during filming and seemed to have so much in common that it actually made them happy to see how in sync they were creatively. To me, this begs the question, is Jan the new Ginger Minj? Okay, this is the story I'm actually really excited for. Speaking to Digital Spy, Bianca Del Rio confirmed that a tie between her and Adore Delano was filmed for the finale of Season 6. I'm going to talk about why this speaks to a larger conversation and why it is even being brought up in interviews in the first place. But this story in of itself is juicy as well, so I'm going to break this down first a little bit. The reason why this particular story is a little juicy is because Bianca also revealed that while they filmed a tie between her and Adore, they did not film any tie options with Courtney Act. So they only filmed a tie between her and Adore, but they didn't film one between Courtney and Bianca, for example, or Courtney and Adore, which Bianca felt was production's way of making it very clear Courtney was never going to win anything at all and had no chance in that finale, which is really sad when you think about it. Bianca then stating that 1, she actually thought Adore was going to take the crown and felt that way the entire season, which is interesting to me. And 2, she hoped at least, no matter who won Drag Race, that they wouldn't do the tie because she didn't want Courtney to be left out on her own and be the only loser essentially in the finale, which makes sense, especially because she essentially already knew from filming that she probably wasn't going to win because they didn't really film a lot of options other than just the general one. They always film with everybody with her winning, but leaving, obviously making it very clear she was not. So Bianca didn't care if Adore won or if she won. She just didn't want Courtney to be alone on stage when she lost. And I think that's very sweet. So why is this important? Bianca was only even really asked about this in the first place because people are still upset and controversy continues around the All Stars 4 surprising double win tie ending with Monet and Trinity. Now, to remind everyone what happened, All Stars 4 aired while Drag Race, as a brand, was taking a lot of heat from fans regarding diversity and inclusion, not only for trans queens, but also feeling Caucasian queens were being favored over queens of color, especially on All Stars where the first 3 winners were all white queens. I don't totally agree with this because the regular Drag Race series has numerous winners of color, including the first 2 winners ever. And I honestly think if Shangela and Manila hadn't been shockingly eliminated by their peers on their All-Star seasons, they would have taken those crowns home in those finales hands down. But as All-Stars 4 was airing and winding down, fans were divided and going to war essentially between themselves and with the brand, because Trinity was clearly the front runner for the crown at the end, but with Monet close behind her. Both camps, however, prepared to invalidate the other's win. So if Trinity won, it was going to be because she was favored and they were racist and they didn't want to give it to Monet. If Monet wins, it's because they are pandering and trying to just preach inclusivity. But even how they handled it, fans reacted negatively to, because then what do? They ended in a tie. However, fans were immediately divided on that choice as well, because it was also clear from the editing that they hadn't actually filmed a tie between Monet and Trinity as an option, meaning that it was obvious to fans, at least allegedly based on the editing, that the decision then for the tie was only out of fear of the backlash and not because production at the time felt like a tie would be favored or worthy or anything like that. Trixie Mattel was there for filming of All Stars 4 for the finale and confirmed that they didn't film a tie, but they did, in fact, film a tie for All Stars 3, pointing out more of the disingenuous decision to give both Monet and Trinity the crown, because now what it means is that production at the time obviously didn't feel like Monet and Trinity both were deserving of the crown or both worthy of being top queens. They thought there was going to be a very clear favorable winner. We'll never know who they thought that was, but it was strong enough where they didn't film a tie option, even though they clearly have on other seasons. Anyway, as much as I love talking about this, we need to get to the scoreboard, so let's get to it! As always, these are the queens we started with, and here's who we have left. Alright, so as you can see, I cleaned this up a little bit to make it a little clearer about where we're at in terms of episodes left in the season, things like that. Last week, of course, we said goodbye to Jan as she took 7th place. Now, that brings up an interesting question because that means that for one episode, no queens have to go home, which brings me to this. So it's almost time for us, I think, to find out what this game within a game thing is all about. In previous seasons, when they've brought the queens back, they've done it around this point in the season with only about 3 or 4 episodes left. And typically a queen gets to return. They didn't do it last season on All Stars, and I think it was kind of missing. So they definitely brought it back this time. But typically what happens is a queen will still be eliminated via the black lipstick, as always. However, there will also be a chance for the eliminated queens to compete for a spot to return, and the top queens from the eliminated side get pink lipsticks, and the top all-star of the week has to choose, and the group have to choose either who to eliminate and or both who to eliminate and who to return. So the numbers don't change on that episode, which I think is where the math is going based on the episodes that are left. So I'm almost positive that's what's going to happen with the game within a game. And I'm expecting it to happen. Actually, I think at the end of this episode, we'll get a tease for it, and then that will be what the next episode will actually be all about. That's just based on the previous seasons and the math and all that stuff. That being said, there's always a way they bring them back again for the finale in some way. Sometimes that's to vote as a jury, for example. So it could very well be that there's more to it than this, but I know it will be at least an effort to make a queen return to the competition. So it'll be interesting to see. But I definitely think that's happening at the end of this week's episode, rolling into next week. That being said, so again, this is who's been up for elimination and how many times. Now everybody is kind of on even ground, all queens having been up for elimination one time, except Eureka. But again, we're at the point in the season where if you're not placing in the top, you're placing in the bottom. Now for top stats, Trinity K. Bonet, of course, after winning her challenge last week, immediately took top stats, though it should be noted that she has lost both of her legacy lip syncs so far, where the other queens have actually won their legacy lip syncs. This week's episode will be Snatch Game of Love. We all know what that is. Where regular Drag Race just does Snatch Game, All Stars now has the tradition of doing Snatch Game of Love, which instead of being based on the match game, it's based on the dating game or celebrity dating game. So instead, the queens will still impersonate a celebrity like they do, but they'll be split into 2 groups of 3, which is why All Stars does it with 6 queens. And the 3 queens in each group will compete with their celebrity impersonations to win over a suitor of some sort. It should be pretty good. I'm excited for it. Snatch Game is, of course, a staple of the brand, so it's always one of my favorites. And that's what we're getting into this week. And again, I think right after that, we're gonna get some game within a game fun, and that's really exciting to see come up. Finally. And there you have it. It was pretty long today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and riding through it. You're caught up and ready for this week. Thank you for going over the highlights with me, and of course, I'll see you next week.